Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I would like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Marla Billinghurst. I will be chairing the meeting this morning. With me on the panel are Ms. Cynthia Stevens and Mr. Richard Whitbread. Representing the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department is Mr. Kem Wong, and our administrative personnel is Ms. Nicole Carnegie. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. And once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today, and the session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing item number 1 on our docket this morning. Ms. Carnegie, please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
I'm Wong.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Sharples, please state your full name.
Grayson Sharples.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Van Bruggen. Please state your full name.
Thank you very much. Wesley Van Bruggen.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first item on the docket this morning is 595 Ballantree Drive. Mr. Wong, please proceed when you are ready.
Okay, the subject property is 595 Ballantree Drive. The file number is 23-436. The roll number is 030-930-10085. The roll year in appeal is 2023. And the assessed value is $13,967,000. This is a residential apartment that's 5 stories high. It was built in 2021, and it has 64 suites with 106 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is the location of the subject property. It's just on the northwest corner of Pembina Highway and Bishop Grandin Boulevard. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,384 to get a potential income of $1,063,000. We used a 4.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $1,018,000. And we used a 41% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $593,000. capped at 4.25%. The estimated value is 13,967,000. And that works out to about 218,000 per unit. On page 5 are some rent and expense comparables. The rent comparables show that the rent that we've applied to the subject property is in line with what's in the market and maybe a little bit on the lower end. And the expense comparables range from 35 to 42%, which supports the model's expense ratio at 41.72%. Page 6 is information on how we derived our cap rates. And on page 7 are some cap rate sales. A 2390 McPhillips is a newer property that has a cap rate of 4.79%, and 1745 Henderson is a slightly older property, but it's been fully renovated, and that has a cap rate of 4.28%. So the 4.25% for the subject property is a little bit on the lower end of the range, but it is, I feel, within the range. On page 9 is some information about the subject property from their website. On page 12 is some information on the units. They seem to range from 743 square feet to 975 square feet in size. On page 13 to 15 are some pictures of the subject property. So you go back to my page 7. The cap rate that the model has applied of 4.25%. I feel it is within the range, but it is on the lower end of the range. So to maybe to bring it maybe a little bit more towards the middle, I'd like to recommend using a cap rate of 4.5%. For a recommended value of 13,191,000. That works out to about 206,000 per unit, and as you can see on my page 7, 2390 McPhillips sold for about 215,000 per unit. So I feel that the recommended value is supported by the market, and I ask that you accept the recommended value of 13,191,000.
Thank you. So do the applicants course, it's your time for questioning, but just going to ask if you accept the recommended value, if you still want to proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. We were not aware of this coming in, so we would have to get.
Sorry, I can't hear you. You're very, you keep cutting out. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Is it better now at all?
A little bit.
It seems like when you were a little bit closer to the screen, we could hear you a little bit better, I think.
Okay.
I think that's better.
That sounds better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. We would have to get concurrence from the owner. And we don't have the time to do that right now. Excuse me. So we would like to proceed, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So do you have any questions for the assessor regarding his presentation?
I do not at this point. Perhaps I'm not sure. Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Just a couple questions if we can go, if we can. So just to start off, just to confirm the building, when was the building completed in?
I believe it was completed in 2021.
2021. Would it have been completed after the April 1st, 2021 valuation date?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't have the notes with me. But even if it was completed after April 1st, the reference date, we're valuing the current condition of the property as if it were at that reference date.
For sure. For the leases that were provided on page 11, would these have all been in place after the information you provided, the leasing requests on page 11? Would these have all occurred after April 1st, 2021?
On page 11?
Yeah.
12.
I've got page. Oh, you're right. Page 12. I apologize.
That would have been. That's as of recent. So it would have been after the reference date.
Okay, so that wouldn't have been considered when looking at when coming up with a valuation for this property. Is that correct?
I don't believe so.
If we can go to the capitalization rate analysis on page 7, and just let me know when you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So the building at 1745 Henderson Highway, I see is 12 stories. Would that be considered a high-rise apartment building?
I guess some would consider that a high-rise building. I would consider it a high-rise building. Okay. I'm not sure if we see any difference in our information that suggests, I guess, any sort of a different cap rate. It seems like they're similar to, say, 3, 4, and 5 stories.
If we can go to page 6. You would agree that you would agree that some of the market reports have a separate capitalization rate for high-rise multifamily buildings. Is that correct?
Appears so, yes.
And with the exception of Colliers, you agree that CBRE and Cushman & Wakefield indicate a lower capitalization rate on average for high-rise apartment buildings. Is that correct?
It appears so, yes.
Okay. Also, just staying, if we can go back to page 7. So I noticed that there's two of the buildings that are in your capitalization rate study that have 9 units that sold for around the $1 million mark. Would you consider a 9-unit building to be selling in the same market to the same purchaser, to similar purchasers as a 63-unit building?
Probably not. That's why I feel like the cap rates for McPhillips and St. Mary's are a little bit more comparable.
Except for the fact that McPhillips and St. Mary's?
And Henderson, McPhillips and Henderson.
And Henderson, okay. Except for the fact that Henderson's a high-rise apartment building.
It is a high-rise building and it has been fully renovated, but I feel it's somewhat comparable. It's relatively comparable to the subject property, which is almost brand new.
So when it comes to the lower number ones, the 9-unit ones, they're probably. Would you say how much weight do you think should be put on those ones, considering they'd sell in a different market to a different set of investors with a different set of criteria?
Yeah, they would probably be low.
All right. I think that concludes my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Stevens, do you have any questions for the assessor?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbrad, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Looking at page 7, I believe it is, yes, your cap rate models. Would these all be driven by the model, or would you have had any hand in selecting these?
Those cap rates, the financials were analyzed, and the net operating income was stabilized and applied against the sale price. So it's based off of their actual financial performance.
But in selecting the actual comps, is that the model picks those comps, or do you pick those comps?
No, this is the I guess the chart that we submit for all our properties.
Okay, so in the real world, if you know Winnipeg at all and South Winnipeg, you have no other newer buildings to compare to then?
Not right now.
I see. So they just haven't been added to the chart.
Well, no, I mean, it's, I mean, a lot of buildings that are newly constructed, they don't typically say sell right away. And the thing is, see something that was built in 2021 and it sells in 2022, that would be after our reference period, and it wouldn't be amongst the data that we are using for this cycle.
Right, but 2017 sold in 2019 possibly could, right?
Yes. If something was built in 2017 and it was sold in 2019, yes, absolutely.
So they just.
But I don't think we have very many of those.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, I have no questions at this time. So the applicants, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we have provided a rebuttal document as well. I don't know if you wanted me to proceed with that or with our evidence submission first.
Sorry, do we have the rebuttal document, Ms. Carnegie?
Yes, we have it. It's just on its way. It should be updating to SharePoint momentarily. You don't see it yet?
No.
Okay, just give me a moment to resend it. Sometimes it.
Well, would you like to start with your brief and then we can?
If you refresh it now, Madam Chair, because
Because
I can see the little cloud beside it, so.
And I'm sorry, have you emailed it to me?
It's coming as well. The email takes a little bit longer than the SharePoint, so if you don't see it yet, that's the same reason.
Okay, no.
Sorry, our network isn't the quickest around here.
No, it's just as long as it's kind of on its way, that's fine.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I just got. Did the other panel members receive it yet?
No, not yet.
I just got it as well. I'm good. Thanks.
There, we got it.
Yeah, Mr. Wong, I can still see mine sending in my folder for the email, so it might take a second.
I think I just got it. Okay.
Okay, so everyone has it. Will the applicants please proceed with their presentation and then we can deal with the rebuttal once you finish your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I will begin on page 3 of our evidence submission. Just brief property description here. The subject property is a 64-unit apartment complex. It was built in 2021, and it's located in Fort Garry, and it has no sewer or water. It's been assessed at a value of $13,967,000, and we are requesting that this be reduced to $11,306,000. On page 4, we just have a snippet of the current assessment. Again, this just shows the property influence towards the bottom of the page there, no sewer or water, 1.6 acres of land. And then on page 5, we have our requested valuation breakdown. So we're not requesting any changes to the potential income or vacancy or expenses applied, just the capitalization rate. So we are requesting that the cap rate be increased to 5.25%. And that's how we've gotten to our requested value of $11,306,000. On pages 6 and 7, we just have the valuation breakdown of the assessment. And some mapping on page 8. So at the top of the page, we have the assessment map. And on the bottom, we have a satellite image. And some property photos on page 9. So this photo on the top is from the website. I believe the building was just recently constructed. We couldn't grab any street view photos or anything. It just wasn't updated yet. And then again, just an aerial image on the bottom of page 9 there. So beginning on page 10, we have our valuation. So the first thing that we did was we looked and tried to find the most comparable sales of similar properties. So we were able to identify these 4 properties in the table above. These are all the sales that we could find. We used the Johnson report to get these. These are the only 4 we could find that were built after 1980. So again, there aren't a ton of sales of brand new multi-residential properties like this, but the first one we were able to find was 100 Maryland. It's built in 2017. It's 11 units, and it did sell in July of 2022 at just over $2 million, which equates to about $186,000 per unit. And then we've identified the following: 607 Layla, 140 Eugenie, and 349 Nova Vista. These were all built in the 80s. 607 Layla and 349 Nova Vista are a little more similar in terms of size. And these sold for values of just over $100,000 and just over $150,000. And so again, from this, we've got an average sale price per unit of about $143,000, median of about $142,000. And so there was no unit total when we were preparing this evidence. We estimated there to be about 70 units, which would equate to a value of just under $200,000 per unit. We've since learned that there are 64 units, which equates to a value of $218,000 per unit. And so again, just from all this, the current assessment of the subject appears to be overvalued. And then again, as mentioned, so the top sale at 100 Maryland is the only property that's really comparable in terms of year of construction. So we've taken a look at that, and we've used actual asking rents from this from the subject property. So this is on the following page. This is page 11. I believe this was included in the assessor's brief as well, just showing the asking rents from the subject property. So moving back to page 10, we've used the lowest of those asking rents, which was $1,445 per month. And we've used that to derive the rental rate in calculating this capitalization rate. We've used the vacancy rate from the City of Winnipeg guidelines, and then we've used the same expenses allowance as the subject property, and from that we've calculated a cap rate of 5.25%. Moving on to page 12, this is supported by the third-party market data. So as kind of mentioned earlier, we look at these multifamily cap rates, we see the low-rise cap rates for A-quality properties from CBRE. They're reporting between 5.25 to 5.75%. Colliers and Cushman haven't broken it out into the low-rise A and low-rise B, but they are reporting cap rates from 5 to 6% for Colliers and 5 to 5.75 for Cushman. And then again, just the City of Winnipeg, we see the 20th percentile cap rate there is 4.8. The subject has been assessed at 4.25, so significantly below this. And from that, we believe that a cap rate of 5.25 would be reasonable. And then just the bottom of page 12 here, we have the CMHC rental market survey data. So this just shows increasing rental rates. With that, we would expect higher income and therefore higher cap rates as well. So in conclusion, on page 13, we're requesting that the capitalization rate be increased to 5.25% and do assessment value of $11,306,000. We have some supporting documentation beginning on page 14. So just, we have the notice of hearing there. And then on pages 15, 16, and 17, we have some photos of the comparable properties that we've used. So on page 15 here, this is the 100 Maryland property that is the newer property that was built in 2017. And then on page 16, we have 607 Layla, 140 Eugenie. And then on page 17 is 349 Nova Vista. And then beyond that, we've just included the City of Winnipeg guidelines for income producing properties. And with that, I conclude the presentation and welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wong, do you have any questions for the applicants?
Yes. On your page 10.
Yep.
So I guess you did a cap rate calculation on 100 Maryland.
Yes.
So it is the reference date April 1st, 2021 for, I guess, the current assessed value?
Sorry, was that a question?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And the 100 Maryland sold in July of 2022. Wouldn't that be post-reference?
Yeah, it is. Again, there is for a ton of sales of properties with a newer year of construction. So we do feel that this is the most comparable, although yes, it was after the reference date.
Okay. Normally, I guess as far as I know, cap rates are typically calculated based off of, I guess, real financial statements and information. But you are using sort of an advertised rent to establish the income. And you're using, I guess, the model parameters for vacancy and the model parameters for expense allowance. to calculate your cap rate?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any actual rental information from the property, so that is the best we can do as far as that goes.
Okay. That would be all my questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Stevens, do you have any questions?
Just in using in the some of the comparable sales that you've provided here, do you think that these locations would be as desirable as the location of the subject property?
I'm not entirely sure. To be honest with you, we were looking more so at the age of construction of these properties and the location. So again, there aren't very many sales of newer multi-residential properties across Winnipeg in general. So we were just looking more so at the year of construction and comparing them that way, as opposed to the location of the properties.
Yeah, because none of them are really in the same general area as, well, they aren't in the same general area as the subject property. Okay, I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions for the applicants?
I have none, thank you.
Thank you. All right, my question has been addressed. Thank you very much. The applicant has rebuttal information.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. On page 3 of the rebuttal submission. So this is a rebuttal to page 7, which is the capitalization rate evidence. So the top of the page 3 here is just a snippet from the assessor's brief with the sales that were used to derive the cap rate. So we're just going to go through each of these comparables. So the first one is 2390 McPhillips, 4 stories, 90 suites, built in 2015. And just based on the photo at the bottom of the page here, we would agree that this is a good comparable. Moving on to page 4, we have photos of 700 St. Mary's and 203 Bertrand. So both of these properties are significantly smaller. So these were both 9-unit buildings built in 1961 and 1963. And we don't feel that these are comparable to the subject property. Significantly older in terms of year of construction, significantly smaller, and we don't believe that these two properties are accurate comparables. On page 5, we have 555 Corridon and 677 Maryland. So 555 Corridon at the top there is 16 units, was built in 1955 and sold in 2018. So again, this one's about a quarter of the size of the subject property, significantly older. Again, we believe not comparable. 677 Maryland sold in 2020. It's 32 units, so about half the size of the subject property. And this one was built in 1913 and then appears to have been renovated in 1972. This one's noted as having an effective age of 1972. And so again, we believe this is not a great comparable for the subject property. And then on page 6, the last two comparables here, First one is 32 Arden. 2 stories, 23 units, effective age of 1984, sold in 2019. Again, this one significantly smaller and older than the subject property. And then the bottom of the page is 1745 Henderson. So again, we noted this one is 12 stories, 110 units, and it has an effective age of 1994. So again, we believe this would be considered a high rise. It is different than the subject in that sense. And again, it was built about 30 years ago, so significantly older than the subject property. So on page 7, we have calculated the cap rates again using the first sale that was provided at 2390 McPhillips. And we've included this along with 100 Maryland, which we had presented on in our evidence. We've just taken 2390 McPhillips and adjusted the cap rate a little bit. So again, we see in the table here, this one is located in Market Region 3, which is Old and West Kildonan. So using the City of Winnipeg guidelines, a vacancy rate of 4.2% would be applied to properties in that market region. So that's where we've derived the vacancy there. The rental rate we took using asking rents from the website. So if everyone turns to page 8 quickly, we just have a screen grab from the website for 2390 McPhillips. Just shows that 1-bedroom units are starting at $15.55 a month, and 2 bedrooms are starting at $16.85 a month. And so back on page 7 for the rental rate dollars per year, that 19,440 is using the average asking rent of the 2 unit types. And then the expense allowance was derived using the expense comparables that were provided in the assessor brief. And I've included another snippet from that. So these were provided on page 5. And the 37.42% is the average of all those expense ratios. Again, the vacancy rate is from the City of Winnipeg guidelines, and the operating costs are the same as assessed. So once we go through all this, we get a calculated cap rate for that property of 5.41%. And so when we look at that, as well as 100 Maryland, these are the 2 transactions that have been identified by both parties with a recent year of construction. And from that, we get an average cap rate of 5.33%, which we believe supports our requested cap rate of 5.25%. So again, page 9, just briefly in conclusion, we're requesting that the cap rate be increased to 5.25% for a requested value of $11,306,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wong, do you have any questions for the applicant regarding their rebuttal evidence?
I guess, yeah, on your page, on your page 8, those are the rents for 2390 McPhillips. Say current, are those the current rents?
That's what is being advertised on their website.
Okay, and the sale took place in 2020?
Yes, it did.
So basically, you're using current rents and against a 2020 sale to try to calculate the cap rate?
Yeah, again, we don't have any of the actual rental information for this property. We don't know what leases were being signed for in 2020. So this is unfortunately the best we can do.
Okay, and so you don't have any of their financial information to calculate a cap rate either?
We do not.
Okay. That would be all my questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Stevens, do you have any questions for the applicant? regarding the rebuttal?
No, I have no questions on the rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitbread.
No, Mr. Wong asked the question I had. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions either at this time. Does the assessor have any rebuttal evidence they would like to
No.
present? Sorry?
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Is there a need for a summary from either party?
Yeah, for me, I'll go quick. Just I guess the recommended value is in line with the sale of 2390 McPhillips, which sold for $215,000 per unit. This property is the recommended value is $206,000 per unit, and keep in mind that the subject property is 6 years newer than say McPhillips, and typically speaking, you would expect that I guess the newer property would have a higher value on it. So I feel that the value that I've recommended at $13,191,000 at $206,000 per unit is supported by the market, and I ask that you accept recommended value.
Thank you very much. Would the applicants like to summarize?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just quickly, there have been so few market transactions of properties that are similar in terms of year of construction. So when looking in the two that have been provided by both parties, that is the 100 Maryland and 2390 McPhillips, both of those transactions do support a higher capitalization rate, and that is supported by the third-party market data as well. We would just ask that the board take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think that is all the matters on the docket. We've heard all the scheduled items this morning, and the hearing is now adjourned. So thank you very much, and good morning, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.